Identity's first panel discussion at Downtown Design is done in collaboration with Kohler, and it explores everything to do with sustainability. We have a stellar lineup of panelists who are going to explore the nuances of going green in the hospitality design sector. Thank you all for being here today. I'm super excited to have this panel discussion with all of you wonderful people. We're going to start off with Olivier.
So my name is Olivier. I'm the president of Kohler Kitchen and Bath in the EMEA region. I'm in charge of Middle East actually since 2 months, and I'm very excited being here. And it is a very promising region. We have a lot of projects here, including in hospitality, in a region where we have to find the solutions to bring sustainable solutions for the hospitality industry, residential industry, and all the bathroom industry in general. So very happy to be with you today.
Hi, I'm Adriana Graur. I'm the design director of the Dubai studio for DWP. And we work across various sectors, but we are focused on hospitality and workplace. And of course, we're constantly trying to find innovative solutions that will solve the issues that we're having nowadays. And that obviously encompasses sustainability as one of the major factors.
I'm Bianca from Merwe. I know that's a mouthful. I'm the Middle East Design Director for DLR Group. We are also across various sectors. I focus primarily on hospitality, residential and mixed-use interior design. And thank you for having me as part of this panel discussion.
Hi, I'm Sneha Divias. I'm the architect and founder of my practice called Sneha Divias Atelier. We are a boutique studio specializing in residential, small hospitality projects and commercial projects as well. And sustainable practices has been something that always interested me. I studied architecture and I did a lot of workshops regarding sustainability and sustainable materials. And it's great to be talking about it because it's something that we always try to integrate in our projects.
So talking about sustainability, breaking it down, going to the basics, how do you define sustainability in the hospitality sector?
I think when we look at sustainability, we should look at the overall approach. It's not really focused on one sector only, and it should just be part of our life as designers. If you do good design, you're already implementing it into your thoughts. So we do that on all sectors. It's not just hospitality focused because, again, especially mentoring younger generations, I think for me, it's super important. I was just doing a talk this week on a local university about sustainability in residential, which is different than hospitality, is different than workplace, but it still works with the same elements. You still have to do good planning and you still have to think of the well-being of people inhabiting that space. So if it's hospitality and it's about the experiences that you're creating with those ideas, it is considering various elements. But the same ones you'll apply to a residential project, and in the same way you'll approach a workplace environment. I think the moment you're coordinating that with the architecture practice, for example, doing it from the interior on the exterior, that's already looking in the right direction. And it's not just looking at the small elements when we talk about sustainability, in my view, and I think I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that, but it's the overall when you're thinking of the well-being of that person coming into, for example, a hotel. Are they really going to feel better after they left the space? Because it's not just like, it does look good, but all the hotels look good in general. You know, we're all good at designing spaces. It's how we're implementing those to make an impact on the person. It's something that encompasses that sustainable aspect.
We put a very big focus on in DLR Group. We collaborate with our architects and our interior designers right at the start of the project, because then it becomes a conversation and a collaboration together towards a common goal at the end of the day. You know, and sustainability is really important, not just in the hospitality sector, but really across every other sector, because I want to make sure that my daughter has a world that she can live in and that she can thrive in, and her children as well. So yes, it's a very big focus.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting when you talk about, because you and Sneha touched on a point, which is the operators, right? And in an ideal world, the client is going to be like completely listening to you, telling you everything as per whatever you say, I will listen to it. But in a scenario where the client is sort of coming to you with not much idea about sustainability in the hospitality sector, one, how do you approach that conversation? Two, Do you invest in time to actually let the operator know that this would be sort of like the benefits, or what's the return on investment in really going green? Is that a conversation that you have, and how do you start it? So
I think first we need to explain the clients. Sustainable can be achieved without compromising on the experience. Sustainability, for example, in our industry, in the bathroom industry, it's not about reducing the water flow. Everybody can reduce the water flow. But it's how can I reduce the water flow, bringing the same experience as a normal water flow, and not compromising about the experience, especially in the hospitality industry. In the hospitality industry, people go to a hotel not just to use the bathroom, they want a full experience. And I think to convince about sustainable products, we need in the same time to convince about the experience that these products will bring. And then I think we cannot avoid the topic about the cost. If sustainability means higher cost, we have a problem. So we need to bring sustainable solutions at a reasonable cost. Otherwise, we make a barrier for sustainable products, which is a problem.
I think one thing that I've noticed becoming a lot more common is the fact that operators are very well educated in sustainability. And you don't have to do that, or you don't have to have that discussion with the client on your own and not have them on your side. They actually explain it sometimes extremely well to a client on how to have the right approach in operating a hotel, obviously designing it in the right way to be operated from a sustainable point of view as well. And as Olivier was saying, I think it's extremely important to have the right products considering those elements. And at the end of the day, what we're really trying to create is exactly that, the same experience, especially when you're talking about extremely luxurious experiences, with that sustainability element embedded in without realizing. And that's, I think, is the harder path that we have to take. And we're all working towards the same. But innovation in all sectors, I think, are helping us achieve it in, I think, slower, obviously, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there.
Yeah, and I mean, exactly to that, the operators, they're 100% familiar with the conversation. So it's not something that you have to drive. It becomes a natural part of the process, which is obviously really conducive to us and, what we want to make sure that we're able to achieve in a project for the greater good. And I think it's good.
I think, like they said, the operators are very well educated these days about the importance of the contribute of sustainability in the project. But I still feel like there's a long, long way to go. Let's look at hospitality, the footprint of the materials and the big chains, which they have specific requirements and specifications all around the world. Like, why does a room in New York have to look like a room in Dubai? We need to contextualize the projects as well with materials, with the craftsmanship, sourcing locally, and then the strategy, let's say the solar energy, the water consumption, are we doing sensors for the lighting? But the thing is, I think there's a bit of a cliche that sustainability and luxury don't go hand in hand, that we're compromising on luxury. So I think that's something that we need to work on. Second, I also feel like being sustainable might require a bigger initial investment on the systems, but that is dissipated throughout the years. And sometimes the client has to have the bigger picture and a proper plan done that, okay, you're going to integrate these systems, which will cost you more right now, the lights or the fixtures or the panels, but then this is what will happen throughout the years. So I think there's got to be a plan for a bigger picture of the 10 years. How will that look like? And again, not to mention how that will contribute to the world, right? Which is a big game. Yeah.
That's really interesting that you mentioned about like the solar power and all these renewable sources of energy. But this region, I think we are blessed with abundance of sunlight, but we have not harnessed it yet. Is that because it's not yet a design need, or have we not tapped into that power? What exactly is going on in terms of designing with solar or renewable sources?
It's a really interesting question.
I think Obviously, it also goes into the architectural world more than what it does in ours, and that's something that, of course, we can agree on. But even with that, it's not just with the architect to implement it. It's obviously with the owner that will have to have that, and with the operator again. And if you look globally, a lot of the operators are having renewable resources already as part of their daily plans. And not only that, but they are a lot stricter with how they build their hotels. So I think, again, I know we're a bit slower on certain elements in Middle East, when we're designing with sustainability in mind. But we're definitely trying to introduce it in here, and it will be embedded into the hotel.
For sure. And we have COP28 happening in Dubai this year. So I think there's a lot of
there's a big
initiatives,
focus.
yeah,
There's a very big focus and a very big push. So I reckon, honestly, it's starting to happen. We're looking at that. There's going to be a lot more. To your point about looking at about the context and about the materials that you source from the place, the same goes with vernacular architecture. Taking inspiration from those design concepts and actually integrating them into the designs from the get-go. Things like solar renewable energy. It can be something. I saw a really incredible project actually about how they harness natural daylight into a hotel through the use of light tubes, which obviously cut down the need for lighting, which is fantastic. And that was derived from a vernacular architectural process. So I think there's a lot that's still to be explored, but there's definitely a large movement on it.
Definitely. That's interesting. Now, from your side, I mean, the designer's side, when you talk about, pushing for that agenda, but how does from the product side, how do you look at, renewable sources and actually making products that, fit that kind of technology and work within these kind of renewable sources?
We already discussed the sustainability is not only about the performance, it's the material you are using, the way you produce it. Kohler company took the commitment in 2008 to have carbon neutral operations in 2035. So we are very committed in sustainable solutions, not only for performance of the product, but our operations. I think I'll give you an example of, you spoke about total cost of ownership of sustainable solutions. Sometimes you may invest, for example, in water leakage systems, water leakage alarms. We are blessed with energy in the Middle East, but water is very precious. And UAE has one of the most efficient water supply network in the world, one of the most efficient in the world, but it's still around 8% leakage. So if we have the systems that put the right alarm when we identify a leakage, we save a lot of money, and a lot of water and a lot of money for the operators of the hotels, for example. So it's not only about, it's about the experience of the people using the bathroom for us, but it's about the experience of the operators of the hotels in terms of cost savings, total cost of ownership. I like to speak about total cost of ownership, not to be focused on the buying price of the product. That's not the only point of the system.
And that will tie into your return on investment, because they're able to actually measure the savings. That is money back into their pockets.
Yes.
I think one element that we're still lacking globally, not in Middle East, focused in here, is how those are reflected actually, how even people that are going to a hotel can actually see those savings. Because there are a few that are transparent with that, but not everyone. So because you're not seeing it, then why would I pay to get that service? It is the same. I will pay more to go to a sustainable, and I've read that the studies are showing that 80% of the people will actually pay more to go to a hotel that considers sustainability. So if people are already doing that, then what's the issue with becoming transparent so that you can actually, I think, push people to come to your hotel? I think that's where we're going, and I'm assuming that a lot of the hotels will become more and more open to sharing all that information. Because it's not just resources savings, but there are a lot of elements that should be transparent and considered when you're looking
the
at
operating systems,
of
things
course
like that.
Definitely. So I'm going to pivot a little bit and talk about technology, because I know we briefly, when having the conversation, touched upon it. But does technology, I know we keep talking about technology is going to be the future. We are going to, integrate these massive systems and it's all going to be jolly holly. But I'm going to be on the negative side and say, is there any drawback to the pace at which we develop technology? Is there sort of a pressure to integrate some sort of technology that you might have not considered useful before, or might not necessarily be useful? It's just a gimmicky thing. Is that a scenario that happens with hospitality sector?
I think there is a trend, and within Kohler we push that for reuse. So how can I reuse the products, the old products that are dismantled? How can I reuse the loss I have in the production into new products? And I think this is a general trend, reuse, and not only new materials. How can I reuse material for the sustainable development? That's a very deep trend, what we observe in the industry.
I think one element is being innovative. I think it's actually, I was watching a documentary the other day about innovation. And when you're looking at classics, they've been innovative for their time, But you would rather invest in something that is classic nowadays than something that is just innovative, right? And that's where you would put your money in, because a classic already had that innovative element, but then you maintain that quality, performance over time. And that's, I think, when we're actually appreciating a product more than something that is just new. And it's true, with the technology being developed at the pace we're doing today, it becomes hard to know what's really going to be great in the next 5 or 10 years, because it didn't have enough time to be studied, right? You are doing it. Of course, there is a lot of research and a lot of development for each one of the elements that are getting developed. But again, time just gives you the right answer. And without having that, then you can't really guarantee. And because it's too fast nowadays, it just becomes a bit harder to judge. At the same time, I think when we're looking at innovation, I appreciate the simple things, like materials that are being used for the, the tap, which doesn't stain, for example.
For the tiles. We can reuse a lot of materials in the tiles. Yeah.
That, and the time that the cleaners are going to spend cleaning that room. That's actually a sustainable view of how to operate the hotel, of how to take care of the hotel's life as well as the guests and your employees, because at the end of the day, sustainability doesn't look at just the green elements that go into a hotel. It looks at the operational side, but again, it cares about the human being. And the human being is not just the guest. It's also the owner, it's also the operator, and it's the people that are taking care of that house, that hotel. And they have to spend less time taking care of the room. By introducing innovative materials that are taking care of that, it's easier. Instead of spending an hour cleaning that bathroom, they will spend 20 minutes because it's not stained. It just cleans very easily. And again, it's not just for these obviously carpets and so on. It's the same approach. I think that's a lot more sustainable than just creating something new.
That's interesting. Do you guys?
Yeah, I think also, in our industry, we have a great blend of knowledge, if you will. We've got a lot of new, fresh talent coming into it with these great, innovative ideas. But then we also have, the slightly older folks that's been around and they've gone through everything and that's been tested. So I think it's really going to be about keeping that conversation going to try and monitor what you mentioned about, pushing something out that's maybe not quite ready, because you can go down the rabbit hole where it's not been tested, it's not been thought through quite as far as what it should, because, perhaps it's something that you're incredibly passionate about at the moment, but we've not thought about the pitfalls later on. And that's where that knowledge is going to come back. So it's a little bit about reusing the knowledge. We mentioned about reusing materials. It's a little bit about that as well, I think. So
definitely. That's really interesting in terms of when you say, I love the fact that you mentioned that there is a fresh group of people who are out there super excited about tech and I mean, right now we have AI just morphing faces and, you know, all those wonderful things. And you just go like, okay, that's great. And then you have the skeptics as well on the other side going like, this is gonna take some time to like settle in. It's okay. And one thing that I kept hearing last year was metaverse. And everywhere I looked, people were talking about metaverse in design specifically. And they kept talking about, you know, building a digital twin. And then some of the architects that I spoke to said, we've been having digital twins since like God knows when. This is not a new thing. So when you look at something like the metaverse, do you think that it can inform or give you perhaps data that is not available at the moment to help inform design decisions in hospitality sector?
I think it gives us a platform to explore and test and see what is possible and test the boundaries, and from what the output is from that, take that information and then apply it. So I think it's a great tool.
I'm actually quite skeptical regarding the metaverse and AI, because I feel like technology will be there. Like Adriana said, I think we're still not there. It's quite advanced. There's still many corrections with what we have right now that need to be done and streamlined before we can make benefit and good use of technology. I think first we need to streamline what we have without applying that technology, correct it, and then see how technology can help us.
And would you say this is more along the regional development or the adoption phase? Like what aspect of technology would you say is currently facing that gap?
I think, in my opinion, regarding consumer habits and predictions, I don't think technology can overtake the real experience, in-person experience that we have, you know, from the data that we have. Maybe first we need to collect the data and study the strategy and look at the data properly before we think that metaverse can help us with those inputs.
I want to add on that because I'm a hybrid.
We have a balance.
I'm in between. I'm half with the classic and half with the innovation, because I do want to evolve, but I want to stay again like a classic, you know. So in order to innovate, you have to consider technology, because we move fast, and if you're not absorbing it, then you're going to be left behind. So even with the classic piece, you still have to look at new technologies on how to evolve that product. Yes. We're constantly enhancing even experiences, products and processes. I think, for example, technology in a hotel or in the hospitality world is different on how we're integrating it and how it can help. Like, for example, it does change the way a room is utilized if you know that when that person left the room. So that does reduces your cost, and it does reduces your electricity usage, water, and so on. The cleaners can also go in like faster. They don't have to spend time like or knocking and just like going from door to door, or like just checking, you know, like if you left it red or green and so on. So technology in the hospitality world can be looked at differently, and it's the same, you know, like how you're creating a shower with the same experience that you'll have for the normal one, but with less water usage. I think elements like these are the ones that are innovative in the hospitality world, and I've seen them in various hotels that I've worked worldwide. It's great when you go into a room and it just feels like home, because it has the right temperature. I don't freeze the moment I go in, or I'm not too hot, you know. It has a nice balance of lighting. It's not too bright, and I don't have to try all the buttons in the world to figure it out, you know. It's quite intuitive, and it's user friendly. That, in my view, that's technology innovation. You know, it's something that becomes easy to use. And it moves forward, you know, like it allows everyone to use the room and make it for them. Obviously, the next step is, and you're seeing it in the ultra luxury hospitality world, is when you go in and those are already adjusted for your usage, you know, because they already know you as a customer. They know what you like, they know your temperature, even water, and your Netflix is already, account is already on, and things like this. That's innovation, you know, because
but the technology is available.
Exactly.
The technology,
It
that's
is
not
there.
rocket science. The technology is available.
It's just the implementation of it to create that unique experience. And you want you want that experience because that's
In
luxury.
the luxury hospitality,
Yes.
the customized experience, as you say. I want. I will have the right. I will have the right water temperature in my bathtub, and the technology is available. It's not AI. It's available. So we can bring that.
It's even using AI actually to generate that information for the user, you know, because with AI it's really easy to absorb that information worldwide and make it suitable for your user, which is amazing. It's like having a lot of minds, you know, for your own usage. Amazing.
Extra resources.
Yes. I'm using it a lot. Honestly, I'm using, again, you know, I'm one of the people that will definitely draw by hand, and I encourage everyone to do it. But I'm also developing ideas using AI because it's having an additional mind there, you know, like helping you come like a bit stronger, like exploring different views, which sometimes you do that through hours of brainstorming with your team. With this other guy, bright guy,
Guy who doesn't want to sleep,
Yes.
eat, nothing.
he's like, he's a good ad.
No, that's really interesting in terms of design, but I'm going to pivot a little bit to the product side and ask, does metaverse or technologies like that help inform your decisions to create new products, or is it more organic and you find it out through research and things
The
like that?
usage of our products is very important for us to develop the new products. So we need to know how our products are utilized, what is the feedback. We use a lot of feedback of our hospitality customers about how their own customers are using the bathroom. So and we need to adapt what we develop, how we think, to the usage of the products that are done. And coming back to the operators, hospitality operators, they, for example, coming back to the water consumption, it's become, especially in a region like here, it's key. It's key. So we have a lot of working groups and speaking with the operators. What are they expecting from us in terms of development?
Yeah, definitely.
It's very important.
And that's something that I kept hearing around was data, information, and then how that informs. How readily is information available on the usage of energy resources or water consumption, etc., in the hospitality sector in Middle East? Is it readily available? Is it something the design firms or maybe the product side has to invest in?
No, the technology is available, and all operators, they measure the water consumptions, for example. But now it's not only about the total water consumption. You can track the water consumption of each room, each fixture, so that you can adapt, adjust, customize depending on the customers. So the products are available, and it's a running process, and in the Middle East and in UAE in particular.
I think it's just about becoming familiar with that transparency that we spoke about releasing that data, about sharing that data.
Ensuring the benefits as well, right?
Exactly.
And where corrections are needed so that we all collectively can contribute towards that.
And even for the guests, I think it's great to see that. Well, actually, on my trip this time, I was 20% more sustainable overall,
Yes.
I think it does have a different impact. You do that, even with events like downtown design. There are the right, I think, events where you can highlight these elements.
Yes.
And in hospitality, it's a bit harder to have the information available because of the operator side. It does have to become more transparent in order to get that information in front of everyone, which will help us a lot, will help the developers of the products a lot as well. It's not just for the guests or like the users.
But it's a process. It's a process, and it's definitely underway. We can see that.
That's a very positive note, but I'm gonna literally, this is a conversation I think we can have so many more hours on, but I know we are a bit short on time. So I'm gonna ask you one final question, and you can go down the line. From Sneha, we'll start. What is the one aspect or one hope for future designers when they look at hospitality design in the region? What is the one thing that you hope would be addressed by the time they get in? Let's say 50 years from now on. One challenge.
I think one thing, maybe well, if this is all streamlined by then, they don't have to think, they don't have to put any effort, because the process will be so streamlined that the materials that you select are restricted to sustainable, recyclable, the layouts from everything so it's so streamlined into their education already that they don't have to think about it, because that's the only way they know how to operate.
Yeah, and with that to feed into not being afraid to make the big moves, you know, really go for it. I think that would be fantastic, and to have the support of the client and the operator side, because they do see the value, but to have that gumption.
A utopia, a blissful utopia. Adriana.
I think it's hard to think how things are going to be in like 15 years or like even more, because as you've mentioned, you know, technology moves at an insanely fast pace that you can't even think of how the world is going to be in 15 years. Most probably we will live on Mars, you know, which I'm 100% sure that I'm going to live there before I'm dying. Maybe
This next range is all about living in Mars.
Maybe
That's
I'm
what it
never
is.
gonna die, you know, because by the time I'm 90, hopefully, I'm gonna get the pill and be like, okay, I'm forever living here. So I think what's really important when designing anything and we're doing anything in life is to just enjoy the moment and think of what you have available at that specific time. Of course, you're living in Middle East, so we have to think local as well. We care about, when designing something for hospitality world, incorporate things that are from here. And I'm not just talking design, but the people that are living here, that their aspects of life have to be layered into that experience, as well as the hospitality that you get in the room, in the service, and on everything that you touch to be considered in that way. I think when the moment you create that experience for the moment, you don't have to think about the future, because you never know. I can't predict.
Great. And Olivier.
For me, I would say sustainable solutions are already cost efficient for the operators, hospitality operators, and for our communities. So don't as we shared, don't imagine that sustainable solutions are expensive solutions. No, they are cost efficient if we consider the total cost of ownership. And then I would add, don't compromise the experience. Don't think that sustainable means less experience. No, it can be gracious as other solutions.
It's going to be a utopia. 50 years from now, we're going to have this conversation. We're going to say everything is great. There are no issues in the world. Designers and operators and clients, everybody gets along.
If we're considering sustainability.
If we are considering sustainability, it's all great. Thank you so much for all of you for being part of this panel.